Throughout my life, I've noticed that there are seasons where God will separate me from friends and family spiritually and remove some people from my life that I thought would be lifetime friends. And often I would ask God, why are they gone now? Why didn't that friendship last? Why do I feel isolated? And God started to deal with me with several answers. And I'm going to share those with you because I know I'm not the only one experiencing this through my life. And we're going to talk about why God removes some people from your life and isolates you from others. And we're going to do this in Walking Through the Bible with Deborah. The first reason God isolates us from others or removes people from our lives is because those people are holding you back from your purpose. You heard me. They're holding you back from your purpose. You feel like they're your friends. You love them. And I'm sure they love you too. But everybody is not supposed to go on your journey with you. And everyone is not for you. So once again, the first reason is they're holding you back from your purpose. And the first scripture I'm going to talk about is Genesis chapter 13, verses 14 through 18. In this chapter, they talk about Abraham, who was the father of the Jewish nation, and his nephew Lot. When he left, when God sent him out to find this land that he had given him, he came with Lot. He brought his nephew with him. But along the way, God blessed them and gave them good success, and their property, their livestock, everything they owned began to expand, and even the number of people they had with them. And it got so that they couldn't dwell on the land together. So Abraham told Lot, you pick the land that you want, and you expand in that direction, and I'll expand in the other direction. So Lot did. Right after Lot took his land and left Abraham, that is when God started to show Abraham his promises. He said, look at the land before you. Wherever your foot treads, from the north, south, east, and west, that land will belong to you. But God did not reveal this purpose that he had for Abraham until Lot left. And it says, as soon as Lot separated from him, he told him, look up, look at the land. Wherever you see, that's what you will own. God wanted to give him that purpose before then, but he had to separate Lot from Abraham in order for Abraham to fulfill his purpose. And God will have to separate us from people sometimes in order for us to fulfill our purpose. And this happened to me recently. I was thinking about doing a major purchase. And before I did the major purpose, well, God has shown me, and I got a prophetic word about it. But God also revealed to me people in my life that were not for me. And I had a particular friend, and I had prayed when I first became friends with them. And as my friendship progressed, I noticed they started withdrawing from me. And I prayed and I said, Lord, why are they withdrawing from me? And God, I heard him clearly say, this is not your friend. And I heeded him, but since they had withdrawn from me, I didn't think anything else about it. Well, as time went on, they started coming around again. And I forgot what he told me. But then he exposed them for who they were. Because when things were going well for me, they didn't seem to want to participate. When things were going bad, they wanted to come back in. And God showed me that they're not for you. When you get blessed and are successful, they don't want to come around. And they're not your friend. And she told me, basically. So that is when I realized that this person was not my friend. So God showed me this is not somebody who's for you. Because as soon as you start to get elevated and become successful, they're not going to be for you. They may even try to sabotage you. Now, Lot, I'm sure, wasn't intentionally doing something to Abraham, but he was blocking Abraham's blessing. And sometimes we have friends who are not supposed to go on a journey or ministry with us, and they're blocking our purpose. The second reason that God separates somebody from you or removes them from your life is he's protecting you from them hurting you. And the example in the Bible was when Moses was the son of a Pharisee at that time, and he saw that the Jews were being mistreated by the Egyptians, and he slew a man, he killed a man, and he ran into the desert to save his life. Well, we know that that man was not for him, or those people were not for him, and that he had to find safety in the desert. So he went in the desert, and I don't believe God spoke to him until he was in his 80s. So he was in the desert for a long time, and that gave him time to find protection so he wouldn't be wanted anymore by the Egyptians. And it was a place of safety for him in his season of isolation. In the same way, God will give us seasons of isolation for protection as well. And that's protecting you from people who don't mean you well. I had a friend, and when I got married, that friend acted like they were upset with me, and they were there, but they ended up separating themselves. And I talked to my spouse at the time, and he was like, they weren't for you. They weren't your friend. They didn't mean you well. And he could see it, but I couldn't see it. So God removed that person because they would have been a hindrance to my marriage, a hindrance to my spiritual growth, and hindrance in every area of my life. In the same way, some people don't mean you well, and they mean you harm. So they're going to sabotage your ministry, sabotage your purpose, and maybe even try to hurt you spiritually, and maybe even physically. Some people really don't like you, but they pretend to. Number 3, he wants your full attention and dependence on him. We look at Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was called to do a great thing for God and to deliver his people. But his family was not for him. And he was one of those people who kind of applied to the other things about people meaning him harm and about people blocking his purpose. But they also propelled him towards his purpose. So Joseph was loved by his father because he was the youngest. His brothers were jealous and angry because he had this dream that they were all bowed down to him. So they were like, we got to get rid of him. So they were plotting to kill him. But one of the brothers said, no, we can't kill him. His blood will be on our hands. Let's sell him into slavery instead. And in the process, Joseph went through a whole lot of different things. He was elevated because he had favor, but then things would happen to him. So he worked for this man, and the wife lusted after him, and he wouldn't sleep with her, so she accused him of raping her. So he was thrown in jail. And then he moved up in the ranks in jail. He became in charge of everything. And 2 men came in who were from the king, or the Pharaoh, and both of them had a dream. One was the baker and one was the cupbearer. And he told them what their dreams were. And he told them one would die and the other one would go back and receive his position again. And he told the person who was going to go back and receive his position again, don't forget me, remember me, and mention me to the king. Well, that person did go back, and the other man was killed. And the person that went back forgot about Joseph, and he was in there for several years after. But when the king needed help with something, a terrible dream he had, that is when the cupbearer remembered him. And he said there was a man in jail who can interpret dreams. So then they brought Joseph forth, and he was able to interpret a dream, and the king made him second in command. So he was promoted in his ministry, in his service. But he had a season of separation from his family, from everything he knew, so he could learn to depend on God, so he could be trained in the things that he needed to be trained in. And he had to depend on God because he had no other source. Everybody else had let him down. And we have to learn to depend on God, because when God raises us up, sometimes we don't know who is friend and who is foe. So we need to put our trust in God. And we need to pray and ask God for direction, because people will surround you, but everybody is not for you. Some people are there for the glory. Some people are there for the fame. Some people are there for the money. And some people are there to use you for whatever you have. So we have to learn to depend on God. And so he got that time of separation. So in my life, I found that when my spouse passed, I was very close to my in-laws, and they were beautiful people, wonderful people. But as time progressed, God separated me from them, even though I didn't want to be. But he was trying to train me to be independent and to be self-sufficient, and to have my own space and be individual again. Instead of being a married couple, I had to learn to be just one person and be self-sufficient in all areas, so that I could grow in my ministry and training and equipping. So that was the third reason Now, the fourth reason that God will remove people and isolate you is because he's trying to equip you and train you for your ministry. Just like he did David. David was a sheep herder. And you're thinking, what does a sheep herder have to do with a king? Which he became. And he was called to be the king at the age of 15. But he didn't become the king until he was in his 30s, 15 years. So what happened out in the sheep herding business that helped equip him to be king? As a sheep herder, he learned leadership because those sheep depended on him for life, for health, for being to be fed, for everything. So he learned how to keep and be responsible for someone other than himself. And he learned how to protect and fight. And him protecting the sheep from wolves and bears was the very thing that brought him to prominence, because he had learned to kill these large animals, which may have sometimes outweighed him like bears do, with a slingshot. And he was so equipped and skilled at it that it was used to kill a giant. So God equipped him to fight that battle with Goliath. In those years in the desert or in the woods with those sheep, he learned how to do this. He also learned how to lead. He learned how to camp out. It equipped him for so many different things. And he taught him to be self-sufficient and independent. And he learned how to rough it. When he was hiding from the king, from Saul, he had to learn how to rough it out in the woods, in the mountains, in caves, wherever he could find with his men. But he was a leader in training out in that time with the sheep. And God is training us and equipping us to lead and to do things he wants us to do. And sometimes the things we're doing seem small. A sheep herder seems like a very small position. And it was even small to David's family, because when the prophet came and looked for him, they brought everybody out but David, because his father thought, well, he's too young and he's just a sheep herder. And people will look at you sometimes and think the same thing. But God is equipping you and training you for your ministry. Don't overlook the small positions, because those are the times when you receive that equipping and training. Even in my life, over the years, God has put me in different places and positions. I learned to serve in my local church, usher, whatever they needed, I would do, because God was training me and equipping me for the ministry he has for me. So don't overlook or despise small beginnings, because God is trying to use you and equip you. And you have to stay humble so that when you move up and you are elevated, it doesn't take you by surprise or cause pride to come into your heart. So he equipped me through service in the local church. And then he started giving me different speaking engagements, small ones. And I'm also doing Bible study. So the Bible study led to doing Bible study with you. And so God is training and equipping you to do what he called you to do. We always, not always, but we sometimes think, I wish I had this gift and I wish I had that gift. But what we need to do is focus on, what gift do I have? How will I use it for God's glory? And God will elevate you in due season. I hope these 4 points about how God removes people and isolates us from others will help you in your journey in ministry to God. Have a wonderful evening.